Welcome to the Next Level's Chaos to Clarity podcast. Chaos ends here. Clarity begins now. Every week, real stories, bold strategies, and actionable insights help you level up fast. Let's dive in.
Hey. Welcome back to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. As a reminder, I'm Becca, your VP of Admin Services, and with me here, we've got...
I'm Ben, your COO, and we're here to try to make life a lot simpler for you.
We are, and this week we're really actually excited about a topic we want to bring to the table, which is the importance of technology as you scale your systems, whether that's as an individual contractor or as a business owner. So we just kind of want to talk about what we find is important about these types of systems that would be very much useful to use. And the main one that's glaring us in the face is a CRM. And I'm sure you've heard us talk about that, even just in our general intro, as you've seen on our website when we talk about it. And people just in general in the industry keep talking about CRMs. And you might be saying, what in the world is a CRM? Let's just start out the gate with what is it? So Ben, can you walk us through what a CRM is?
I don't know, Becca. No, I'm kidding. CRM is what they call a customer resource management tool. And it's basically just taking everything that you've ever known in your life that was pencil and paper and folders and Post-it notes and everything like that, and cramming it into this little thing they call a CRM. So there's many people out there. We have tons of partners that we're part of CRM work with. I say tons, there's like 4 of them, but big word. They have tons of clients. And so we understand the importance of a CRM because it's just one place to track everything, all your leads, all your customer jobs, all your estimates and invoices. So it's super important. Most people, even when I was doing roofing and stuff, most people were still using pen and paper. And, trying to track that stuff down sometimes is crazy. You're like, oh, let me go back to my files. And you're in this storage room with like hundreds of banker boxes and you're trying to find that estimate, from 5 years ago. So it's kind of crazy.
It is 100%. And honestly, even though that we mainly focus on like 4 main systems, day to day, in the last like 15 years alone, we've been so exposed to multiple different systems that they all are there to target and achieve the same thing ultimately at the end of the day. They all have different strengths, different advantages. Some cater to one person's tech desire versus someone else's. That's what's so great about having so many options, is it's really anybody can choose a system that'll work for them, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But that pen and paper experience, like we use that term so often to talk about customers who haven't even really dipped their toes in technology from our perspective of technology. So you might be using your iPhone every day or an Android phone, like I know I'm so tech savvy. I got my iPhone, which is great. That is a valid, level of technology. But then when you talk about your business and you have to, like what you're describing, comb through all these different files and pages, not to mention the carbon risk when you're like, oh, if this paper gets damaged, that is my source of truth. I have one option, one thing there. When you've got software, there's of course risk in software too, the same way you would have risk in paper where something could get corrupted or a file. But when you're dealing with cloud systems, there's less of a risk of you losing something. 99% of the time, stuff's recoverable. So when you're trying to move from pen and paper in here, go ahead, Ben.
I think you have to ask yourself though, if my phone broke today, would I lose my business? And
exactly.
you were like, I'm tech savvy, I use my phone. But let's say you're sitting there and your phone's your world, right? You're getting calls on it, you're getting text on it, you're doing whatever on your phone as a contractor. But ask yourself that, if your phone broke today, would you lose your business? And if the answer is yes, then you don't have a real CRM. So you don't have a real way of keeping up with anything. And I think too, Becca, a lot of people that are old school or that are trying to shift, it's a mind shift going from paper to digital. I know my wife and her mother-in-law, or my mother-in-law, my wife and my mother-in-law, they're both real estate appraisers. And so technology has evolved even since my mother-in-law began, even since my wife has begun. And there's some people, they talk about adapters, like you have those early adapters, mid adapters, late adapters, non-adapters. And even in their industry, there's some people that are like, I'm retiring. I can't do this because it's new technology. But but my wife's having to evolve into learning different things, even though it used to be pen and paper. Now it's not. The real estate industry is like that too. So it's a very important mind shift when it goes into thinking about how do I run my business accordingly so I can scale. And, even if I went to scale it to sell it, that CRM is going to come in handy.
Oh, 100%. It really will. And when it comes to that whole adapting to the technology, like you bring up such a valid point where there's so many people who come in the door that are coming in the door with a fear of the change. And like, this is just too much for me to try to figure out. And we're sitting here on the other side of that saying, it really isn't that difficult to figure out. We can help you. We can help you understand it quicker. And I think that's where a lot of people end up in this, like, how do I make a solid decision on getting onto technology if I don't know I'm going to have the support to successfully run the play all the way through? And it
Mm-hmm.
can a lot of the times, I feel like a good portion of our clients that we even deal with, it's one person that's a single point of failure that has to be the one that makes the decision and also rolls out and builds the system, rolls it out, trains everybody. I don't think there's been one client I've worked with in at least the last 8 months who didn't have one main person driving the play, and it's all on them. And
Yeah.
if that person themselves is not okay with learning something new, with the challenges of adapting, that small period of time where you're like, okay, this is going to feel a little rough for a second, but then we're going to
Mm-hmm.
find our bearings. There's a lot of people who will just keep throwing in the towel until you get to a point where you're so far behind as a business because you
Yeah.
won't adapt to technology that now you are running behind
Right.
everybody else, all your competitors and everybody else. And you're asking yourself again, at the end of the day, why am I so stuck? Why am I not able to scale? Why am I in this bottleneck again? And it
Well,
and it
you're
comes
running
down
a
to
fragile
technology.
Yeah, you're running a fragile business. Basically, when I was
Mhm.
doing roofing years back, we didn't have a CRM. So basically, it was paper contracts. I'm going to the customer's door. I'm talking to them. I'm literally writing down on the white, pink, and yellow piece of papers
Mhm.
combined together. I'm writing all their information down, and that was what I turned into the office. And then the office just put something in some kind of system, not a CRM, but just the computer to hang on to that customer's information. Um, and so there, at times, we found ourselves with things falling through the cracks, leads, information, because I'm a huge proponent that if it lives in your head or if it lives in a notebook, which is what I use, I had a notebook that I wrote everything down, or scattered text all over the place, then you're running a fragile business. So it's
Mhm.
easily not it's not built on a firm foundation, basically. And so if something happens, winds of change are going to blow it down, and then you're stuck wondering, like, how the heck did I get here? Well, you didn't build a good foundation. I'll give you a quick story
Mhm.
about that. I worked for a large SaaS company, software company, and I did an on-site for a large, very large, top 40 roofing company in America that was trying to switch over to a CRM. And so I went on site, and everything was going good, incredible people. But at the end, they could not adapt to the software because it was ingrained in them so much of the old way of doing things. And here was the way they did it. I have a new job that comes in. I write it down on a piece of paper. I put it in a manila folder. That manila folder was inter-office mail that got passed to anybody and everybody. And the way that they had a conversion or conversation about what they were doing is they wrote it on one of these little guys here, nice little sticky note, and they put the note in the folder and passed it to the next department.
Mm.
That was bad, but they never could adopt to a CRM because it wasn't what they were used to. And so in essence, they failed to digitize everything. Now, I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing now, but they were a huge company. They did a lot of volume. They did a lot of roofs. And it was just kind of, wow, is this really how you do it? So,
Yeah, and that's such a good example. I feel like that familiarity with, I just know this transaction I'm doing in this way works and I will get the
yeah.
message received, that they can create this decision paralysis around adopting to that new system and trying to really
100%.
learn something new. And even if you try to present it, and this is what I love about what we do when we show up with clients with these like kind of fears, is to be able to sit down and be like, okay, if this is so comfortable for you, this is something that you are so convinced is the secret sauce to your success, why wouldn't we want to find a way that we could do this exact same thing more efficiently? So if you were to
Mhm.
track it, I'm a big fan of data and time studies. And anybody who's worked with me knows and probably is like rolling their eyes, another time study, of course. But they're so good because they will show you the gaps in processes and the true, like, data doesn't lie at the end of the day. You can
Right.
manipulate data to tell your own story, but the data is the data. And if you were to sit down and be like, cool, let me come on site with you and I want to track and time how long everything takes, because you don't want to get off this process and you just invested all this time and energy into a system only to not adopt it. For us to say, okay, it takes us, let's say for that process of handing the file manually back and forth to put your little sticky note of conversation on it, if I could achieve that in an hour, and then we digitized it in a system to where whenever we hit certain milestones, like our file review, the estimate's been signed, we've sold, we've got our production crews that need to be assigned now, we need to order our materials. If the system was automatically generating the sticky note for you and telling
Yep.
you, hey, this file's ready for you. If the system was automatically notifying your client, hey, your appointment's been scheduled, sales rep, you've been assigned, sales rep, make sure to call the customer, follow up on this estimate. When you actually have a system who is taking out the physical time that it would take you to walk from person to person, to hope you remember to
Mhm.
do that sticky
Sure.
note. And that's not even accounting for your priority list that you have.
Yeah.
So when I get handed a paper file, I have my own mental priority list I have versus an actual digital to-do list that's saying, I'm going to
Mhm.
hold the place for you and it's going to be here and you can always come back to your list. I've got it for you right here in the system. And it's the first thing you see when you log in. Those
Right.
little things, I think
We've
that
labeled it.
that's go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just gonna say we've labeled it before, like, as a CRM. If it's not in the CRM, it's like your business Bible. If it's not
Mhm.
in the CRM, it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
And you and I are both in the same company in the same line of work, and a lot of times when these contractors come to us, they're struggling. They're struggling to keep up, and it's because you know they've got leads that are falling through the cracks. They can't keep up with where they're coming from, or did I call that person or did I not call that
Mhm.
person? So it's like putting them in there, making notes and all that. No consistent follow up. It's disorganized.
Mhm.
Man, I can't tell you how many times growing up and doing roofing sales and project management, how sometimes I had to make myself organized because everything around me felt disorganized because there wasn't
Mhm.
a CRM. And then you walk into poor communication. There's no
Mhm.
visibility into anything. And then that in turn talks about what our whole podcast is about, is turning chaos into clarity. It creates chaos for the owner and it causes undue stress on the
Mhm.
job and at home too, because you don't know what you're doing, because most contractors don't have a lead problem, they have a follow-up problem, and
Mhm.
they don't know how to handle it because they're just writing paper and making notes on paper every day.
I love that you bring that out. Excuse me. I love that you bring that up because that'll be, I'm sure, a topic that we dive deeper into in another episode. But
Mhm.
the whole, whenever we have ourselves in a position to where we have to self-report, like our job is to say, I did do that, I did call that person, keep our
Mhm.
own account for what we do need to do in the future, and hope we remember it all and that we wrote it down in a spot that is all in one spot. Not, never mind me checking my calendar, checking my texts, checking my emails, checking my phone,
Mhm.
doing all these different things. Plus I need to go talk to Kathy at the front desk, and then I need to go talk to Greg over there in filing, and go talk to, like 7 other people. I'm creating my own mental load that I need to carry
Mhm.
around. And that mental load, I feel like, will eventually lead to you dropping a lot of things unintentionally. And we, by nature, want to defend ourselves. We don't want to be perceived as we don't know what we're doing or we're not trying to do what we're doing. Not everybody comes from a place of assuming best intentions. And I think that makes us by default end up wanting to be defensive. And I think that's a big thing that I've noticed when people try to adopt new systems too, is there's this assumption that the reason we're adopting a CRM is because we're not trusted, or there is a resistance to that because they're saying you just want to watch my every move. But honestly, 9 times out of 10, it's because people don't want to chase anybody down. We want the system to work
Mhm.
for you. So it comes from this place of how can you use technology to automate a lot of the mundane tasks that you really don't even want to do? We could call them low value tasks. Do I want to go and
Mhm.
check my email every 30 seconds? Absolutely not. I don't have time to check my email every 30 seconds. But if a system would notify me as soon as someone did reach out, if a system did notify me that I haven't reached out in so much time, then I'm reducing this timer in my own head to gut check
Mhm.
myself to say, is it time to communicate again? And that's
Yep.
what we really want to overcome is that assumption of this doesn't come from a place of anybody needing someone to watch anybody, but man, what if the system could do it for me? That would save me so much time. And then I've got my own case for me. It's like having your own lawyer on retainer. Go check the
Yeah.
job, check the notes, you'll see everything. The story's all there.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, typically what we tell people is it's a game changer. How is it? Well,
Mhm.
you know, you can find lost revenue if you have a CRM because you're seeing that information come through because you're having automatic follow ups, like you said, with the time and the consistency of just a process. And I think most people fail because they don't have proper processes in place when it comes to actually running their business to where their processes are translated to their CRM with what we call a workflow. Because if you can't, as you said earlier, if you can't measure what you're doing to a certain extent, you're not going to be able to grow and you're not going to be able to scale. Because even when I was doing it, I had guys that were working with us, colleagues that were sales reps, and they're like, "Oh, I missed that job. Well, why did you miss that $15,000 roof job? I forgot to
Mhm.
follow up." Or the customer went with a competitor because competitor responded faster, or the job details got lost in a text and therefore it cost the company a pretty big mistake and that ate into my commission or their commission or whatever, and because it just wasn't anywhere centralized. And then again, you're operating in chaos, and so your wife and your kids are frustrated because business is always chaotic, and so you're just like, it feels like a never win. And a lot of these guys that I've talked to in the past are trying to push them to that. Even current friends that I have now, "Oh, man, I'm too busy. I just can't do that right now." Or, "I can't remember everything," or "I'll set it up later." And you fall into that, "I'll just do it later." And later costs money. Later, you lose
Mhm.
money. And you have to have an urgency in your business to say, "I want this to grow as fast as it can," but you have to have the proper implementation put in place to make sure that you have the proper workflows, as well.
Absolutely agree. It's the simple things that you could be so sure that you've got the machine running the way that you believe it's supposed to have the most success, but it leads into that bigger conversation of your long-term milestones that require you to adjust over time. So that
Mhm.
workflow and that process might have worked for the last 3 years, and that's great. Love that. But what could we tweak about it to make it work for the next 3 years?
Right.
And your openness to that. I think having an open mind also to the relationship with failure. I think a lot of people assume failure means that my business itself didn't succeed, and it's like absolutely not. You've got a very well thriving business actually, but
Right.
there are fail points that can begin to exist over time in your processes because when you scale, the story changes. Things change. Your customers behave differently. You have different challenges you have to face now. There's that going joke of like more money, more problems, right? You definitely
Mhm.
do with technology and with teams and with individuals. Like there is not one aspect to business that doesn't at some point reach these bottlenecks, and you have to
Yeah.
release that pressure, adjust, move to the next level. And then we have our new side quests. Cool, we leveled up. Now we've got more skills. Now we know more about what to do. We adapt faster. Cool. What's the next ceiling we got to hit and
Yeah.
challenge we have to face?
And how do you get to the next level? By working with next level.
You do.
That's what we do. I mean, we do that every day because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, if I could just find the perfect CRM." Well, there's not a perfect CRM. Trust me, there's not a perfect CRM. If I could take all of the CRMs and put them together, I don't think there'd be a perfect one. But there's
No,
got to be something out there that works for you, right? So a CRM doesn't just organize your business, it tends to expose it,
it
and it
does.
shows whether you're winning or not.
It does. And I think that's what's so great about technologies. I agree with you. There's not one. I'll challenge it further to say even if it's not just one CRM, there's no silver bullet in general in
Right.
business. You know,
Exactly.
CRMs are a solution. You do need them. I've not run into one person in this industry that I've said, "Nah, you'll be better off without one." I've never said
Mhm.
that. And it's because it's just true that you need it. There's too much value to be gained out of it. Now, you could
Right.
have different systems that meet your needs at different points in your business's, level, depending on what level your business is at. But unless you're going to sit there and raise the capital to develop your own system in CRM that will take 5 to 10 years to get to a point where it is perfect for your business. And at that point, you will probably have outgrown it. Um, there is no secret sauce or silver bullet to this one solution is going to solve all of my problems. It is
Yeah.
genuinely, this is a part of the puzzle that is going to
Yeah.
solve my
Yeah.
problems. And I need to marry that to my new processes, to training my people, adapting and changing everyone's mindset, and really genuinely moving into the next phase of and the next level of what your business will be.
Or whether you're actually running a business or just surviving a business.
Yeah. Oh, and that's such a good point. And I'm sure that'll be a whole episode in itself, like what
Yep.
it's like to notice the difference between you're in a successful business versus I'm trying to survive it right now. And you could have all the
Mhm.
best intentions in the world, but unless you're willing to make very difficult choices and have really hard conversations, which is the least fun part, I think, about business. No one wants to have those. Well, some people probably really like
Yeah.
the hard conversations. But I don't genuinely think, that is one of the things that can be the most difficult to overcome, is being willing to
Right.
have those hard, challenging moments.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, well, this has been really great. I've loved us, getting our real full first podcast episode kicked off here, where we're talking about CRMs and just really understanding the base front of where a lot of our clients start from. This mindset of, I know I need to go into a system, I know I need technology in my business, but I'm
Yeah.
afraid to pull the trigger there. We actually have in our next episode further expansion on this topic, where we really want to talk about how a CRM becomes the operating system for your business. So it's really great to know I want a CRM, but to go deeper into, why do I need it? How could it become the right solution for me? So that's what we want to dive into our next episode that's coming up.
Yeah. We really want to talk about just making it super simple and super easy for your team, and adopting your workflows into what you do on a daily basis. Because I mean, Becca, when you think about it, we're helping people build out their CRMs, and their workflow processes is basically everything that they're doing from start to finish, from lead coming in to filling in, getting the contract signed, to production, to billing. It's literally their thoughts of, oh, I've got this task, I've got this, I've got to do all this. And it's taking what they have in their mind and literally implementing it into a CRM, to where, hey, if it's not in here, it doesn't exist. And it's really changing their mindset. Most people are kind of nervous because they're coming from paper and going into a CRM, but um, they're going to find so much more advantage from getting into a CRM than it would be a disadvantage. Um, and I think that that's, we're helping people every day, but that's where we can help people even listening to this podcast of, what's your next step? Well, your next step is just making a decision to do it, right? And then calling somebody like us and say, what do you think's the best fit for me? And we sit down and we walk you through that complexity of figuring out what's the best system for me to get in as an owner, as a contractor, and then helping you implement it, and being that voice behind you as the owner to say, yes, you can do this, and here's what you can do to make it work, and then train your team on how to do it.
Exactly, and that training, on the other half of the delivery of what we really like to do with our clients to make sure they're successful in implementing a CRM, is making sure people really understand how to use it. So we
Mhm.
do everything from the admin training to where we make sure the person who's really riding with us through the whole implementation, it becomes the
Yeah.
expert on the system for those questions, internally. But also, we want to focus on the team and themselves. So we do a sales training where we really talk through, from a sales perspective, the front line perspective of what's my life really going to be like using this system. And we give them to you recorded too, so you can watch them back, and really having that hero there with you who's looking out for you, who's really thinking about, how can I make sure you guys don't run into those pitfalls. A lot of people do when they implement a new system. We really get excited to see the success story that comes out at the end, where people are like, man,
Mhm.
they're really using the system. They're loving it. We've got so much insight into data now. We can see everything. That's really what gets us through each day, is to see that people are really, really succeeding and having a good time in the systems.
Mhm. Well, and there's like those unforeseen rules that people don't really see under,
Hmm.
like blatant rules, but there are a couple like if you in my world, our world, rule number 1, no CRM, no work. So if you've got a lead that isn't in the CRM, like what are you going to do? You're not going to ever touch it if it's not in there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it forces behavior change. And I think a lot of contractors are really just scared to jump into a CRM because of the backlash they're going to face with their team. And
Hmm.
I get that. I understand that. You'll get pushback. That's the point. You're making
Hmm.
people more accountable. You're making things organized, and most CRM setups fail because they're too complex. So
Hmm.
if you're not trying to keep it simple and then scale as you grow, complex systems aren't going to get used, right? And you're going to simple systems get scaled, but complex systems aren't going to get used by your team. And then last, you have to inspect what you expect. So you're inspecting everything that you expect from your team because leadership has to own it first before the team will actually respect it. So if the leadership doesn't check it, the team's not going to respect it. And,
Hmm.
you said it earlier, tracking activities, calling out gaps in workflow processes. And then this is where it matters on my part. Leadership has to own it and they have to live it first, right? And that's where I've always in leadership. If I've tried to do anything in life, is if I wanted someone to go follow me and go to this next area, and no one's really going to follow me or trust me unless I've been there first. If I've been there,
Hmm.
to like I love London. I've been to London and I could probably show you around. I've been to New York 50 times. I could show you around New York like the back of my hand. But if I was just going, somebody may be a little bit reluctant to following because I maybe not know what I'm doing. And that's
Hmm.
where we take the owner and we say, hey, leaders lead first. Leaders go first. If you don't use it, if you don't check it, if you don't trust it, then your team won't either. And bottom line is the adoption won't happen. It starts not with your team first, it starts with you first. And
Hmm.
that's where buy-in comes as an owner, as an operator, because once you have it, then it's kind of like we're the people that come in behind them to support them to push the implementation for adoptability, and that's the fun part of seeing it revolutionize somebody's business.
It really is. You said it perfectly. That willingness to become the master of the system ahead of your team, even if it's just one person, it does wonders for you having confidence internally. There's been so many times where I've had someone who's coming in who's like, I'm just the person that's trying to make sure the project gets done. So I'm just kind of checking in. That's great. We love that. But after the project's done, who next? And if you
Mhm.
don't have someone internally who does know a system, it doesn't matter which one it is. If it's your CRM, if it's a document signing tool, if it's something for tracking time, for generating leads, there's a litany of tech stack you could require for your
Mhm.
business. But if you don't have someone internally who knows it, you're going to always end up in a spot where we're not necessarily maximizing our tool. We don't have someone who understands our inner workings of our business. Where can we be strategic with our technology? My husband, he works in sales and operations, and the way I've seen how revolutionary sales itself can be when you're really
Yeah.
dialed into your technology, it's a game changer. It really
Yeah.
is. And you really can find ways to do these different throttles and find the right levers to pull to really make sure you are maximizing the potential for your performance for your team, for
Mhm.
visibility amongst each other, and to really strategize based off of data based
Yeah.
decisions more than
And I
anything instead
think
of
a
gut
I think
feel.
a lot of people are coming into it like, "Oh, it's just gonna be perfect immediately," and it's like you just
Hmm.
said it, pulling those levers, testing those things. I mean, even here at Next Level, we're all the time testing things, and if it doesn't work, we try something different until we find that sweet spot or find what we need to do, and I think a lot of times people get hung up of, "It's gonna be perfect," or like you said, "I'm just a person trying to implement this CRM, and I'm
Hmm.
not," it all boils down to owner buy-in. We've had it bite us in the butt a couple of times, but we fixed
Hmm.
it because we didn't really work with the owner or get his intake or input. And then when we go out to deploy the CRM and train people on it, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We get pushback from the owner. Well, my God, if you get pushback from the owner, you might as well, you're going to get pushback from everybody. So let's stop,
Mhm.
recalibrate, realign. And I think that's where it's important that the owner has to have 100% involvement and 100% buy-in before anything happens. That way there's a leg to stand on with his team. And
Mhm.
that's what we do. I mean, we do that every day. So if you're listening to this episode and you want some help, we're here to help you. We're here to guide you down that road of uncertainty because we've been to the end of it. We know we can take you, we can show you around. You can trust us to know that we're going to make life a lot easier for you if you will let us.
100%. Yeah, you can definitely scan the QR code that's down here. I think I'm pointing to it right down here for you.
Mhm.
This will give you an ability to access our booking link. So if you want to schedule a quick 30-minute session with us at no cost at all, we just want to talk through what your needs are and we can help recommend the best thing for you. And best thing about us is that we want to get you to the next level and make sure we're the right fit to get you to the next level. So we always want to make sure, are you at a spot where this would actually be beneficial to you? How can we help you get there? And we don't want to ever show up with anything that would not be actual return on investment for you.
Or we're not going to do anything we wouldn't do in our own business. You know,
Exactly.
systems run businesses, not hustle. A lot of people, I got to get out there and hustle and stay, midnight till 12 a.m. Or just 24 hours, hustle, hustle, hustle. But if people will get a legit CRM, right, and watch how it will turn chaos into cash quick because it's organized and it's going to be right there in front of your face every day.
Exactly. So go ahead and book some time with us, check in with us, or if you just want to keep listening in and just hear that as we continue to talk through these areas and some recommendations we give you, tune into our next episode. We'll be trying to release them pretty frequently and consistently. And if there's a topic you'd like to hear about, please feel free to comment here or shoot us a message and let us know. And we'll definitely happily report on and talk to any topics that you would recommend as well.
Yeah, well, we're going to bring some partners in next time. We may have some special guests coming up on the next one. Who knows? So you may want to subscribe and stay tuned and hear what's coming next on the Chaos Authority podcast.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for listening. We hope you have an amazing day and we can't wait to hear from you.
Take care.
You've been listening to Next Level's Chaos to Clarity podcast. Curious to learn more about what we do? Check out our website at www.nxtlvlsolutionsinc.com. If this episode hit home, give us a like, hit subscribe, and share it with someone who would benefit from the information shared. We'll catch you next time for more Chaos to Clarity insights.